So kind of thinking about scheduling things out and prioritizing tasks. I'm trying to think of the best example that I could give you. So I think, just like writing a paper is probably a good example, but I would prefer to give you an example of like actually on the job. So as a teacher, I have certain goals and certain things that I have to teach students by. And so the semesters are broken up so that they're altogether 4 9-week quarters. And so at the beginning of the year, have to look at all of those quarters, what needs to be taught in each. Luckily, the state standard curriculum for North Carolina has things broken up like, hey, you're supposed to spend so many weeks on this and so many weeks on that. But of course, we have to look at the deficits that the students have and that, hey, we're supposed to spend 9 weeks on that, but we may be able to shorten that up because they need more time on something else. So I just kind of usually take a look at the students' weaknesses, strengths based off of their test scores from the year prior and apply it to what I'm doing and how I'm allocating my weeks. I then go so if I have a 9-week unit, I look at the content that needs to be covered and I break it up into what I think is digestible sections of 9 weeks. I also look at, do we have a holiday? Do we have Thanksgiving? Do I only have 2.5 days that week? Just to make sure that I'm accommodating for, I don't have 5 whole teaching days. I may have shortened days or days off completely. So then I break it up into, what's going on each week and a little bit of buffer time allowed in between. So then I look at that week and I look at the amount of content that needs to be covered that week. And, I look at the date. Is there anything going on that's going to make that a little bit challenging or that I can incorporate into my teaching? So, if we're doing a unit on water and it's Valentine's Day, like, cool, we can get some carnations in. We can do some activities with carnations. So just kind of coinciding those types of things. I then look at that week and go ahead and plan like, okay, so we need, some time for content. We need actual activities to reinforce the learning and also to keep them engaged. So I look at the different activities, I look at them for the week, and then I look at them literally for every single day. And I break into that one. So my classes were an hour and 5 minutes when I taught middle school. And so, we would have a warm-up activity. So the first 5 minutes of class, getting their heads into science. They just came from a whole other world. So getting their heads into science. And then we would go over that warm-up. So a lot of the times it was like from the day before. And so if we had learned about a certain thing, we would reinforce that or remember, churn that memory with that warm-up question. And then from there, I would go into the bulk of the activity. So whether it was a hands-on activity or content, usually a lot of the time it would be if it was Monday, it would be content. And then some sort of hands-on physical activity or individual work or group work, partner work that would help reinforce and get them to kind of engage in that content a little bit. And then some sort of summarizing activity, maybe a little bit of time spent on homework, and then a finisher or an exit ticket. So that's very often the strategy or the structure of my class. And so how that incorporates with the question being asked. So really looking at the overall goals, breaking them up into digestible segments based on the timelines that I have, and then ensuring that those are being met. So my warm up for the day is, are they retaining the things that we talked about yesterday or the lesson prior? And then my exit ticket is, did they comprehend what they were taught today? Is that sticking? Is that making sense to them? Where is it not making sense? So even though they were like, oh, this is like a stupid warm up and exit activity just to give her some grades in the grade book, it was much, much more than that. It was my play, moment by moment feedback on whether or not they were retaining the information. And then that would help me guide. I would already have my plan for the next day, but if we had to do a refresher, if we had to touch base on something, if we were like, whoa, hey, I really missed the mark as an educator here, I need to make some modifications, I would know before the next day. So that way they're not just completely confused. So that's pretty much what I would do. Very much so like a paper, like as a teacher, you look at the end goal and then plan backwards. And so kind of the same exact thing. How this could apply in nursing would be like when we put out our nursing goals or the goals for the patient. I think that, if we want him to ambulate by this certain day, you can kind of back up and say, what does this patient need to do on day 1, 2, 3, and 4 to be able to ambulate on day 5. So kind of the same type of setup, I think, as what I would use as a teacher and as a student.